So this idea that Latinos don't go to the theater, well, they go to the theater because they never see themselves. They don't go to the theater because what they're talking about, they're not interested in seeing.
José Luis Valenzuela is the artistic director of the Los Angeles Theater Center, an award-winning theater and film director and a tenured professor at the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. I just want to read a little bit from the description from his faculty page. For more than 25 years, Valenzuela has directed critically acclaimed productions at major regional theaters, including the Los Angeles Theater Center, where he created the Latino Theater Lab in 1985, and the Mark Taper Forum, where he established the Latino Theater Initiative. 25 years is a long time, and a whole lot of living. Talk a little bit about how Latino theater has changed in that time. I'm especially interested in how young people, especially Latino youth, react to theater today.
Well, man, it's a very interesting time with the millennials, the millennials, because the great thing about the millennials is that they're curious, they want to know, you know, and our theater in Los Angeles, the majority of our audience is young. I mean, our audience is from 20 to 55, which for theater is unheard. And
That's very young.
Yeah, and 51% is Latino. You know, the interesting part, they're 70% of our audience is college graduates, but their income bracket is very small. They're in the lowest income, even though they graduated from college. But they go to the theater. I mean, theater, as you know, people want to see themselves, and people want to hear their issues, and people want to empathize with the characters that they see on the stage. So this idea that Latinos don't go to the theater, well, they go to the theater because they never see themselves. They don't go to the theater because what they're talking about, they're not interested in seeing. That's really the truth. And programmers all over the country are not programming Latino plays on the main stages. That is an issue because always have seen us. They're
not even programming on television and film.
That's right. They don't do the television. They don't do the films. So it's a lot of work that we have to do. It's not that our community doesn't buy tickets. They buy a lot of tickets. But they buy tickets that they feel attracted to do.
Let me step back a little bit, talk a little bit about the role and the importance of the LATC, Los Angeles Theater Center, and the Latino Theater Company. So you were telling me a story about in 2006 you successfully acquired funding to take over the LA Theater Center, and you received a 20-year lease at that time, but now it's still 26. But I love the story that I read and that you kind of elaborate on it about. Share with us how the center came to be your responsibility.
Well, like I was telling you before, because when that building was created and I had moved to LA, it became my artistic home for many years. It was very important for me when I came back in 2003. I came back to do a play there, and it was in ruin. It was really badly managed. The Cultural Affairs Department was operating the building at the time. And it was really sad to see such a great space misused and underutilized and, not having a real voice. And I felt like I had done enough in my career and my life that it was important to provide a space for the community of color. Because it was really important that the people of color in Los Angeles had a place for them to perform. It was very challenging, of course, because downtown had begun at the time a boom. People were investing in downtown LA. There was a developer, Tom Gilmore, who wanted the building because it's an enormous and beautiful building.
Right. And on Spring Street.
On Spring Street. It's on Spring Street. And we have 4 theaters. 500, 300, 350, and 100.
Yeah, I've been there. It's an enormous place.
Yeah, unheard. There is nothing in the country that compares, especially for Latinos or for people in color. Nothing. Nowhere in the country you can find a space like that that is run by people of color. So that was really important. That was very important. So it was a big fight. It's an enormous fight because, politics, this prime real estate in the middle of downtown,
Right.
worth millions of dollars. So I created a very powerful board with what I knew Latinos leaders in the community who had access or who had access to money. Because at the end of the day, you need to fundraise a lot. They made it so complicated to me to be able for the company to, because we were a small company. They thought, come on, how are you going to run this? You're going to go bankruptcy in a year. And they asked us for $5 million, not to buy it, just to repair the building.
Oh, okay.
The lease is $1 a year.
Okay.
But I have to pay for everything.
Right.
They just gave us a building and say, you have to repair it, you have to take care of it. Which, just to open the doors with the security, the electricity, and the cleaning is $350,000 a year. Just to open the doors with no staff, with no productions, with nothing. So I'm become a master about raising money. But you can only raise money if you have a vision to sell.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You cannot raise. Meaning, it's really difficult to raise money if you don't have nothing to say and nothing to do. And it was very important for us, for the company, to say, we want the space to belong to the people of Los Angeles, to belong to the people of color in Los Angeles, because that's the audience of the future.
Right.
Means nothing we can do about it.
That's right.
It's the audience of the future, and we are depriving our own community of artistic growth.
Right.
I mean, and I don't go into the slogan, it changes lives and all this. It's just culture. Culture changes every day, and it's part of our civil life. As we talk about politics, we talk about culture and the creation of culture and how society. How do we know how people live, or how their lives were? Through culture,
Right.
Through party, through plays, through things that this specific culture has been able to, poetry that's been able, and then you begin to realize how that society or that civilization was able to live. If we don't take care of that in this country, and I'm talking nationally, we're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the millennials, meaning in 30 years they're going to be 50 years old.
That's right.
And
they'll take over. I mean, I have a 23 going on 24-year-old. So,
And where is that civil responsibility? Because see, what culture does to me, gives you civil responsibility. It gives you history. It tells you who you are, where you're coming from. How is my relationship to you? How is my relationship to my neighbor? How is my relationship to father and son, mother and daughter? You know what I mean? That's what culture brings. So when you go to the theater, when you go to the theater, that's what you see, right? You see, oh my God, those people. I thought I was the only one who behaved this way.
And it also informs. I mean, it creates. It really informs the future. I mean, the future generations, the next people who are coming up. Because I think about not only the millennials, but even whether you would call them the post-millennials or the Z generation, which are those who are born after 2000. They're now 16 years old.
They're now 16.
And they're in high school, they're getting ready to go on to college in another couple of years. And, so it starts all over again.
That's right.
And for them, this is a whole other generation growing up in a very digital age.
That's
right. And I want to kind of segue from that, because I think that's also one of the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about, what do you think the 2 or 3 biggest challenges over the years for the center and the theater company, particularly when you're dealing with a whole new set of young people who are coming up?
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean,
You mentioned they're part of your audience, but what are the challenges?
Oh, challenges, of course. One, at least for the millennials, they travel in groups. Okay, they don't go alone. They travel in groups, which is really, really important, and they feel that they're going to an event. They have, they have a different type of behavior than the other generations in that way. Secondly, because I'm talking about people of color, the income, they don't have a lot expendable income as the other communities do. So you have to provide space and give them, reasonable pricing on tickets, reasonable, and also make them feel that they're coming to an event. Meaning theater has always had suffered this. When films came, they say, "Oh, theater is going to be over." When television came, forget it. Nobody's going to be at theater because everybody's going to want to be home.
Right.
So now that we're in the digital media, it's the same conversation. No, it's needed. It's nothing. Nothing compares to the idea of flesh and live performance. Nothing. There is nothing like 100 people in a room together having an experience with live people on stage. It's a very different experience. And the idea is when you experience that much more and begin to understand, you begin to appreciate it much more. The problem is they don't know anything. And they don't know anything because there's no arts education in the schools.
Right.
It's not that they're full. We're not predetermined to be idiots. You know what I mean? Society doesn't give us the tools to be a culturally an active participant.
So part of that challenge is how do you get these young people to understand that it is an experience, that it's not just going and watching a bunch of people up on a stage.
Yeah. Well, meaning part of we do a lot of things. Sometimes we have bands in the lobby who attracts them. We do the art walk in our building.
Okay.
And we do, every second Thursday of the month, we have bands that I have a very young curator who knows that generation.
Right.
Who goes out and say, look, these are the bands that the kids are listening to.
Right.
These are the spoken word that people are interested in. So we have a spoken word, we have poetry, we have bands, and we get 2,000 people to come into the lobby.
How many?
2,000. Every second Thursday through the art walk.
Okay.
Come into the lobby, and maybe 200 of those will come back and buy tickets to the theater, which is great.
Yeah.
And but also the place that we do, they can relate to it. They understand that they see themselves in it.
Right.
We're discussing issues. It's theater that matters. That's the important part. People do interview. Why aren't you doing this musical for? Nobody. Our community doesn't know. Meaning they don't know that it doesn't. It's not an attraction to them.
Right.
Because they don't know the history of musicals. They don't know the history of the American theater. It's our fault because we didn't educate them.
Yeah.
So how do we introduce them to the theater? By dealing with things that matter to them. And things that matter to them are really important in our community. Self-esteem is a big issue in our community.
Do you go into the schools to teach?
We bring students to see the plays.
Okay.
We bus them in.
Right. Okay.
We have a program that's called From the Page to the Stage, which are bilingual books that we give to the students to be read with them and their parents, but these are elementary schools. These are up to the third grade.
Right.
And they're bilingual. And then we create a small piece out of that book in the schools so they can participate and the little ones.
Right.
And then right now we have a conservatory in the summer where we teach them playwright and acting and directing and dance, and they come in the morning. The first hour is yoga.
Really?
Yeah, we give them an hour of yoga, and they love it because centers them, put them in this space in
Right.
order to go.
And how old are these kids?
14 to
Oh.
14
Oh.
to 18.
Oh, okay.
They're high school kids, and we give them a scholarship to all of them so they can come for free because we know their parents don't have money to pay. And also, they get so excited. I mean, we have students who have come out of this program they're going at Yale, at Harvard, at UCLA. They're going to major universities because suddenly they understood the discipline, that being there, their understanding, it's important for them.
Right, right.
That was part one of our two-part conversation with José Luis Valenzuela, the artistic director of the Los Angeles Theater Center, an award-winning theater and film director, and a tenured professor at the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television. In the upcoming part two, we discuss equity and inclusion on stage, as well as in television and film, during a political year when the subjects are at the top of many conversations. More of José Luis Valenzuela next on PalacioMagazine.com.